Jamie and welcome to another Now Productivity Big Idea. A lot of people ask me, why should you be productive? What's the point? Well, one of the reasons why is it to help you be creative, and as humans we are naturally creative beings, but we can design our way to becoming more creative. So what can we do with our creativity? How can we be more creative? Because like myself, sometimes I think I'm not that creative, but we can be, because we can get a little bit of help from our pop friends Kylie and New Order. Kylie brought out an album called Fever 2002, and on that there was a track called Can't Get You Out of My Head. New Order in the 80s came out with a track which is on their Substance album, great album, called Blue Monday, which I'm sure most of you know. And a DJ managed to fuse together these two tracks to get Can't Get Blue Monday out of my head. And that really kind of triggered the start of what we call mashups at the beginning of the century. We had kind of mixing kind of in the 80s and the 90s, and with hip hop and sampling and dance music, but this was the start of the mashup, of where you would take two tracks and glue and kind of weave them together to make a whole new song, and hopefully something even better out of two ideas. There are lots of there on YouTube you can have a look at. Another great one was Kylie's sister, Danny Minogue, around the same time, brought out a couple of tracks. I Begin to Wonder, that they mashed up with, it was You Spin Me Round by Dead or Alive, and so You Begin to Spin Me Round, I think, was the track. And the other one was one that she did fusing Madonna's Into the Groove with I Don't Want to Lose This Feeling. So they kind of mashed it up to I Don't Want to Lose This Groove. So yeah, we had Danny and Madonna fused together for a great track. And these tracks ended up being released. The one with Madonna was so good that Madonna actually approved it for release, because it had some of her lyrics and obviously her sound in there. She thought it was so good. It's the only track that she'd approved because she thought it was so good on a mashup. You can explore other ones. There's like Avicii and Rick Astley together. You've got Jay-Z and the Beatles. Some really bizarre ones you can go searching for, and I've created a Now Productivity Spotify playlist where I've put a couple of those on there for you to go and search if you search for Now Productivity. So where does this kind of link in with you and your own personal productivity? Well, having a think about where you can connect two ideas, two maybe small ideas, to create one big idea. You might be creating a presentation for something and struggling on a slide, or the whole presentation, of where you could actually fuse together two maybe opposites of things that could go together, like myself with pop music and productivity, and how you could fuse those together to make something relatable, interesting, fun, engaging. I like the idea of also with kind of, we see it a lot with brands and companies and ideas. I mean, take like Apple. You've got, we had a phone and an iPod, and they thought, oh, could we fuse these two things together? I mean, these days we just think it's natural, that sort of music on our phones, but no one, we all had mobile phones kind of over 20 years ago, and didn't really think that we could maybe have some music on there and fuse those two things together. And of course, with our phones, we've got all of these things on them now that we can add together. You might have for your own sort of hobbies, pastimes, interests, of where you kind of trying to come up with a creative idea. You like painting, you like making music, you like designing things, of where you could take two ideas to make one big idea. Of course, we've got other sort of big examples from the branding industry. We've got like Coca-Cola and Santa Claus, and fuse them together, the red and white of Coca-Cola, the red and white of Santa Claus, and they brought them together. The holidays are coming, how they kind of fused that was brilliant. And those things kind of stick in our minds. You wouldn't think sort of Santa and Coca-Cola would go together, but they managed to fuse it so it would. So yeah, if you kind of look at different ways that you can, you might be creating an event for maybe your team or your company, or a new, just a simple idea, and you're in kind of a brainstorming session. by yourself or with a group, of where you could come up with maybe real extreme, ridiculous ideas that could actually be formed together to make something really interesting and engaging. And just to finalise on that, is how we can have two very opposite extremes coming together. We've got an album by Sting and Shaggy, 44876, that came out a couple of years ago. Now technically that shouldn't work, Sting with Shaggy, but it's been getting rave reviews. It's a classic in our house. We love playing this album. It's a great one if you're in the car and you're heading out maybe to the beach or somewhere sunny. It's such a sunny, relaxed, reggae, fun album. Yeah, do check that out. It's on I put a couple of tracks on the Now Productivity Spotify playlist as well. So can you comment down below and let me know if you've done any sort of crazy ideas, whether you've fused two ideas together, or you could think of ways that you're going to maybe test this out with things. Let me know in the comments and let me know if it works for you. That'd be great. And I will see you next time for another big idea.